Right, so we are here with Georgie Garcia, professional mixed martial artist,
What's up, guys?
professional Muay Thai fighter, full-time job guy, and overall gentleman and beard grower, even though he doesn't have it today. So I got your guys' questions here. Georgie said he would answer them. But before we do that, Georgie, can you tell us a little about your background, where you went to school, how you got into this?
Elementary and middle school, I just went out to school in Granada Hills, North Hills, and then when I got into high school, that's when I was at San Fernando High School, right by my house. So I had some cousins and friends that wrestled there, so that's how it all started. I started wrestling in high school, and that's where it all started, where like the dream kind of started at.
So you were a high school wrestler?
Yeah, I was a high school wrestler all through, from freshman year to senior year. I didn't do any other sport. I just wrestled on and off season for 4 years.
Awesome. Did you do any other martial arts when you were a kid?
Yeah, actually, way before that, I did martial arts, traditional karate, which is a Kempo and Shotokan, and it was a traditional gi karate like you see in the movies and everything. And I started off with a white belt just like everybody else, and I worked my way up for about 10 years till I got my black belt. And then that's when I made the transition from doing karate into wrestling. Could
you beat Chuck Norris in a fight? That's my own personal question.
Yeah, honestly, I think I could. He has more of a traditional style, so I have more of that mixed martial arts with the wrestling and everything else. So I think I would have more weapons to bring to the table.
Awesome. All right, so our first question from the students comes from Alejandro. He wants to know, did you know when you were growing up that you wanted to be a mixed martial arts fighter?
Actually, not really. I kind of did do the martial arts and the wrestling growing up as just something to keep me out the streets, something to keep me out of trouble. I grew in Pacoima, so that area where I live isn't always the best area to be hanging around at. So I just did it at first just for competition and keep myself in shape and keep myself focused and motivated, just to keep striving to better myself.
Awesome. So I have a stack here, right there, of questions about training. So let's get into the fun stuff. I just tore one. Sorry, Cynthia. Carlos wants to know, is training intense?
Yes, very intense. It's nothing like, I go in, I do a few push-ups, I did, do a few sit-ups and I get a little bit of sweat. It's not like going to a basic fitness gym like 24 hours or anything like that. It's a very intense, very specific training, and it's the type of training that's meant to break you physically and mentally. It's nothing to take as a joke, and it's nothing to come in and like if it's just a walk in the park.
So I guess tag teaming on that for Emily wanted to know, and you kind of mentioned it. You say it's really hard. It's a real hard grind every single day. Do you ever get tired of training and ever just want to take a break and go to In-N-Out and eat double doubles?
Yeah, actually, sometimes I do. After training or before training, sometimes you get that lazy vibe in you, and you kind of want to take a day off or two, or even after practice, you want to go and have like a burger or something just unhealthy and treat yourself. So yeah, I do get those kind of craves. It's not always strict diets or just training and that's it. I always do get that urge to kind of take a day off or so and kind of just reward myself.
Okay, Jennifer would like to know, how long do you have to train? And we'll add Kimberly's question in there. They both want to know, how long do you have to train before you're able to get your first fight, your first opportunity?
I would recommend for somebody who's just starting at least 6 to 8 months. But for me personally, I didn't start training for a fight or preparing myself for a fight till a year after training. So I literally took a year of just doing jiu-jitsu, doing wrestling, and doing my Muay Thai stand-up for a full year with no competition, no tournaments, nothing. And once after that year, that's when I talked to my coaches, and we decided to make that move to get a real fight.
You mentioned jiu-jitsu, wrestling, and Muay Thai. Cynthia wants to know, what kind of training do you do? If you could just give us a brief example of a day in the life of Georgie Garcia's training.
Basically, another day in the office, I would say, would be go to the gym at about 5:30ish. I'd work a little stand-up, run at least 2-3 miles, and then I would start to hit the pads. If it's a day where I just do nothing but striking, then I'm doing Muay Thai for purely 3 to 4 hours, and then if it's a day of just ground game wrestling and jiu-jitsu, then I'm doing that for at least 2 to 3 hours a day. So my days do start towards the evening because I do have a full-time job, but my training schedule would be from like about 5 to about 9ish, maybe 10ish would be my training schedule, either Muay Thai or jiu-jitsu.
And that's on top of your full-time job that
Yeah,
you're
that's on top of my full-time job. I go to work just like everybody else does from 7 o'clock to 4 p.m. and then right after work I go straight to the gym, and that's where I start my training until about 9, 10 o'clock.
Awesome. Have to decide. Deanna wants to know, what does it take to become a professional boxer, or in your case, professional MMA fighter?
What it takes to be a professional fighter would be to not only just the type of training, but the dedication and the mental toughness that you have. You would have to really dedicate yourself. If you're gonna do something, you can't do it halfway. You can't give it 50%. You have to give it 100%. You have to be fully committed to it. It's like a job. It's like going to school. You're not gonna go to school just have time and then leave and expect good things to come out of it. You have to dedicate 100%. So if I say I'm gonna fight, if I say I want to be a pro fighter, then I have to dedicate myself like if it's a full-time job. I'd have to show up on time. I'd have to put in the extra hours and put in the extra work like a regular job. And then if there's overtime that I would have to do, I'd have to do that as well. So 100% no matter what. Whether you're training for a fight or whether you're just training. A professional fighter, that's their job. They wake up, they train. Before they go to bed, they train. During the day, they train. That's their full-time job from morning to night.
So kind of adding on that, even though they didn't ask, you talk about full-time 110%. Are there sacrifices you've had to make in order to do this?
Yes, there's a lot of sacrifices I've had to make. Starting with one of them, holidays. There's times where I had to, if I'm dieting or if I'm trying to eat right, there's times where I wouldn't be able to reward myself, like on Thanksgiving or Christmas, or I wouldn't be able to go out and hang out with some of my friends on the weekends because I had to get some early sleep for training the next morning, or sometimes even my birthday. There's times where everybody wants to go out on their birthday and celebrate, just as well as other major holidays, and sometimes I'd have to sacrifice those times and those personal days where I'd have to sacrifice and give back to my training and to my gym and still be able to train. I would have to set aside all my fun stuff so that way I can take care of what needs to be taken care
of. You kind of alluded to it, but Jasmine was wondering, was it hard to get where you are now?
Yes, it definitely was hard. It definitely wasn't easy. There was no easy part to where I am now. Everything for about the last 2 years. I've been doing this for about 2 years, a little more than 2 years. Everything was a sacrifice up until now. A lot of pain, a lot of suffering, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears have been put in these last 2 years, and there's a lot of sacrifice in those last 2 years.
Antonio would like to know, are you a champion in any of your sports?
Yes, I'm. Like I say, I'm a champion. When I was wrestled in high school, the 2-time city champion in the division in the Valley, and then I was took gold 1 or 2 times for jiu-jitsu at a few tournaments, and then I also am an MMA champion where I hold the belt for a big show which is called the U of MMA. That's held one of the biggest shows in the Valley right now. So yes, I am a multiple champion as within the last 2 years.
An all-around handsome gentleman. All right, on to the goofy side. Angeline would like to know, do you want to be a WWE wrestler?
When I was younger, yeah, I did. I always wanted to be The Rock. Always implemented that eyebrow, that famous Rock eyebrow that everybody knows him by. So yeah, I have a few pictures of me where they photoshopped my face on his body, and I'm doing The Rock's eyebrow. So yeah, I think back then I wanted to be a WWE wrestler.
In an MMA fight, would you drop the people's elbow?
If it was legal, I probably would. Not to hurt my opponent, but to give the crowd a little more entertainment and to hype them up a little bit, I would.
All right. Angeline would also like to know, in all your training and all your experience, have you ever gotten badly injured?
I think the most injured I've gotten was probably, I'd say a black eye. Actually, no. One of my fights a while back was I had a broken nose actually. I broke my nose in the fight. I mean, blood gushing everywhere. I don't want to get too detailed into it. It gets a little gory, but yeah, I actually broke my nose, 3 hairline fractures, and then I think other than that, no broken bone, maybe a few bruises here and there, but nothing too severe, no surgery, nothing like that. So.
Awesome. So a few of the kids, we have Alexis, Albert, and they want to know: do you ever regret fighting, or do you ever regret one of your fights?
I don't regret fighting. This is a goal that or a dream that I've had set on for quite a few years now. But I do regret one of my fights, which happens to be my only loss in my amateur career. As an amateur, I had 8 wins and 1 loss, and my only loss was a finish in the first round. And I do regret that fight. I would say just because the way the fight happened, the way I tried to take the fight. It was just a mistake on my part, and if I could, I would go back in time and redo that fight all over again.
Okay. When you did that, did you learn anything from the loss? You kind of mentioned it a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I learned a lot. I'm a wrestler. Going back to my wrestling days in high school, I'm a wrestler, so I'm more comfortable taking it to the ground. So I think back then, what I did was I took the fight to the ground too early. I went in for a takedown too early, and he capitalized on that mistake. He was able to defend my takedown, and he capitalized on that and pretty much finished me off in the first round. So I definitely learned that I need to be more comfortable on my feet and to not rush into things just because I'm in a panic situation. You can always get out of a panic situation when your back's up against the wall. So.
Awesome, Ren. Coming to the end here, Melissa and Martin want to know: were you ever nervous going into a fight? Were you ever fighting where you were scared to fail?
Yeah, especially my very first fight, I was nervous. I was never scared to fail because I know my training and my coaches prepared me the right way. But even till today, I'm a pro fighter, and I've had multiple fights under my belt, and I still get nervous. I still get the butterflies in my stomach. I still get those jitters. So I don't think there's anything you can really do to get rid of those nerves and those butterflies in you. So I mean, to the day I'm at the top, I'll still get nervous.
Were you nervous when I hit record on this interview?
No, actually I wasn't. I've been interviewed quite a few times before, so.
I know. I've done 1 or 2 of them. Okay, Bernice and Paola have a very, very serious question. What's the worst place to get hit?
Worst place to get hit? Probably the face. I mean, a lot of people get knocked out with through the face or on the chin. Other than that, I would say the livers or the kidneys. If anybody's ever watched boxing or any kind of fighting, you get hit in the body, a nice clean shot, you fold like a lawn chair. And of course on the chin, everybody sees it. You get hit on the chin, you go out. So those are probably the 2 worst places to get hit. So for anybody that plans on fighting, hands up, chin down, protect yourself at all times.
Protect your neck. All right, last question. And you kind of talked about your ups and downs, your training, all the hard work that's gone in, your sacrifices to get where you are to be a multiple champion in multiple sports. And
yes.
And the awesome guy that you are. Jackie would like to know, what's one thing you think you've gained from MMA?
I think I gained discipline and respect. A lot of people or a lot of young adults like me usually fight because they've been fighting on the streets for so long, and they figure, why not get paid for it? And why not make a name for yourself? That's not really what it's really all about. Fighting is about the love of the sport and the amount of respect you have for your opponent. Because at the end of the day, you guys are human beings, and no matter what happens, no matter who loses, who wins, how bad you get hit, at the end of the day, you have to go up to your opponent, shake your hand, and tell them, good fight, good job. And that's what I think I learned a lot of respect for my opponent and anybody that comes and trains with me. Anybody, whether we're rivals, whether we hate each other, it doesn't matter. The one thing I learned is a lot of respect. I think people nowadays don't have enough respect, and I think fighting and being on that side and seeing how much you go through and what you guys have to do to each other and to help each other win and to beat your other opponent. I definitely think that brings out the respect in you, and I definitely think it's important. And that's one of the main things I've learned is just having a lot of respect for my training partners, coaches, even the guy that I fight, whether I beat him or he beats me. You know, we always got to walk in there and have respect for the sport and have respect for each other because we are human beings after all.
Thank you, George. Anything else you'd like to say to the children?
Yeah, I mean, if anybody would be interested in trying and training or anything like that, see what it's really like behind the scenes, because there's a lot more that goes on than what you see in the ring or in the cage. I would definitely recommend anybody to try it out, just so you know and you get a first-hand experience of how much sacrifice and how much dedication you have to put in. So,
Awesome. Thank you, Georgie.
thank you guys.